Alright, so in this video we're going to explore some of the different handling and soothing techniques for babies. So we're going to talk about picking up your baby, soothing your baby, changing your baby's nappy, and burping your baby in particular. So what exactly informs us when we're talking about this topic? Of course, we have to keep in mind where they came from. So what life in utero is like. As you can imagine, your baby was in the dark for most likely about 9 months. Head down, bum up by your heart, feeling that heartbeat surrounded by water in a warm, dark, comfortable space. And then they're born into the world, which is almost the opposite of that. Bright, loud, overstimulating. Another thing to keep in mind is the size of the newborn's head. It's quite big in comparison to the rest of their body. This is obviously not an exact and to scale, but most newborn babies will have a pretty big head in comparison to their body. We think this is because of the size of the human brain, and this is why they are born quite prematurely in comparison to other animals. As you can probably imagine, or as you probably know, other animals will give birth to babies that are already walking or swimming. That's not the case with humans. So they're a little bit more floppy, their head is quite big. That's really important to keep in mind when handling your baby. Also, their GI tract and their stomach is quite immature. All of the sphincters in their body are just a bit weaker than ours as adults, and also the shape of the stomach is really important to keep in mind. The curve of that stomach has potential for like trapped air. All of that in mind, I'm making it sound like newborn babies are really vulnerable and fragile, and while we do need to take care of them, they are also really robust and capable of being squeezed through the birth canal. You'll also hear people talk about how they have rubber bones. While that's not exactly true, they are quite robust creatures, so don't be afraid to handle your baby. To start off with, we'll talk about picking up your baby. So there are a couple ways that you can do this. You can literally just hook your fingers underneath their armpits, just like so, and pick them up like this. It's really simple. As long as you've got a couple fingers at the back supporting their head so it doesn't flop back, you can just hook up and lift them up onto you. Another way to pick them up if they're lying down is just put one hand under the head and one under their bottom and just lift them up. It's really simple. Now, a couple of the soothing techniques I am going to show you are as follows. So again, you can just lift your baby up using that technique, bring them prone onto your chest, upright over the shoulder, and then often just a pat on their bottom, a slow pat. It's really tempting to sort of, in the stress, quickly kind of settle them with a really fast pat, but imagine in utero your baby's bottom was up by your heartbeat. The heart usually beats between 60 to 80 beats per minute, so a nice slow gentle pat on their bottom can be quite soothing for babies. Another one that they often like is when you have them face down over your forearm like so, and you should just be able to support them like this. Face down, it can be a good position to kind of burp them in, and also rock in a way that isn't too hard on your body as well. So this can be a nice way to settle them face down. And you can give them a wee pat as well if you want, or a tap. Now, changing a nappy. It might be really simple for some of you, but also it's fine to need a refresher. So all nappies are different, Most of them will have a line that changes colour when they're wet, just to keep that in mind. And they will have tabs at the back, like so, and then no tabs at the front. They'll also have little frills like this. So here I'm going to demonstrate how to change your baby's nappy or put a nappy on for the first time. Now, I encourage dads to do the first nappy at birth, because why not just rip the band-aid off, get it done straight away when you've got support from your healthcare providers. But really it's not that scary. Like I say, they're super robust little creatures. We've got the back of the nappy here with the tabs, and often it will say back on it, so that makes it really easy. Now you can just grab their legs and lift up their hips and slide the nappy under before bringing the front of the nappy over. And then what you do is you get the tabs, super easy. You just put it on like that and it sticks. And then grab the other side and you do the same. This nappy obviously does not fit, but that's fine. Then you want to make sure these frills are out, like so. This one does not have the frills out, so we need to pull these frills out, because that will make sure it's a good secure fit and you're not going to get any leakages. I can tell you this baby will definitely have leakages, but you get the idea. Now, your baby's umbilical cord will need to be dried out. So some people like to fold the front of the nappy down before they put it on, and that's okay too. And that just lets the umbilical cord fully dry out, and it helps it in the healing process before it falls off. However, it is fine to cover it as well. Now, when we're talking about burping your baby, one of my favorite positions, and I'm just using this teddy because it's bigger, it's a bit more of a realistic size, but like I was saying before, your baby's GI tract is immature when they are a newborn. Those muscles are weak and they're still learning to contract. It's not uncommon for your baby to be spilly or get air trapped, be gassy, feel uncomfortable with their stomach being used for the first time. So burping is important to keep in mind once your milk supply establishes, or once your baby starts having bigger volumes of milk or formula. So keeping in mind that shape of the stomach, I quite like to teach people the wonky winding technique. So your baby's left side, if they're tilted onto their left side, then you're allowing potential trapped air to come out of this side of the stomach. This is also a great position in general, just being upright, letting gravity kind of assist you. I really encourage people not to jiggle their baby too much, which again can be tempting when they seem stressed or you're stressed. Imagine having the biggest milkshake you've ever had in your life and then being shaken. You're going to feel sick. You're not going to feel better. So just a gentle pat in that position can be helpful. Now, just some bonus information that I often get asked about around dummies and swaddling. Now, dummies they work. They're a tool that are used in neonatal units. They are, another word for them is a pacifier. They're essentially a false nipple that goes in your baby's mouth so that they have something to suck on. It's really normal for your baby to want to be sucking to soothe themselves. Like I say, this new world is really startling and it's cold and scary, and they are learning to be apart from you for the first time ever. So we don't encourage dummies to be used unless you know for sure that your baby is well fed, that your milk supply has established. The risk of using a dummy unnecessarily is you could possibly cause nipple confusion, so it becomes a bit harder for your baby to latch if you're breastfeeding, and then like I say, you could miss some important feeding cues. There is some research that shows that they can lower the risk of cot death, which is obviously really important information. I would just say be aware, and if you're having any breastfeeding issues, to hold off until those settle down before you introduce a dummy. Swaddling is is kind of being phased out, is what I would say. Yes, it does work for some babies for settling them. Basically, it is using a blanket or a piece of stretchy fabric to hold your baby's arms down tightly and wrap them so that they feel a bit more secure and so that they go to sleep and stay asleep for longer. The risk of swaddling is that you're essentially suppressing their startle reflex, which is a really normal reflex that wakes them up. We believe that babies in low oxygen environments will wake themselves up with that reflex in order to keep them breathing, basically. So there is thought whether or not that's beneficial to be suppressing that reflex. However, if you're wanting to swaddle them with their arms up, that's totally possible too. However, it works for some babies and it doesn't for others. It's not necessarily something we routinely teach anymore. And hopefully you find all of those tips and tricks helpful and you didn't notice the stains on my shirt or my messy house. I have small children, so that's my excuse. Oh God.